Many couples start to question whether they've fallen out of love after having kids. Your life before kids and after kids is so different. And more often than not, it's not that there's no love there, that you fell out of love. Almost like it just happened, right? That is not how that works. What really happened is that love was not nurtured, and so it faded. It's a slow, gradual process that maybe you didn't notice because your focus was elsewhere, like raising a child, which is a lot of work. Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood can change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I cannot tell you how often I hear from couples saying, I don't even know if I love my partner anymore. Things have gotten so hard. I sometimes wonder if I even like them. And they're not alone. And I'm sure it's not just the people who are telling me, right? It's not just the people who are ready to take that next step to work with a marriage coach. Many couples start to question whether they've fallen out of love after having kids. I mean, it makes sense though, right? Like your life before kids and after kids is so different. You went from having all of the time in the world to date each other, to be really considerate and generous and just court them, to having kids and you're like, I don't have any capacity to do this at all. I can barely handle being a parent and I'm just racing to get to bed, and then I wake up and I do it all over again. So I don't have the energetic capacity, I don't have the emotional capacity. We're just going to have to ride this out until things get easier, right? So I'm not surprised when people share this with me. And more often than not, it's not that there's no love there, that you fell out of love. And even if you just listen to that phrase, fall out of love, it's almost like it just happened, right? That is not how that works. What really happened is that love was not nurtured, and so it faded, right? It's a slow, gradual process that maybe you didn't notice because your focus was elsewhere, like raising a child, which is a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of our energy. So in this episode, I'm going to unpack why love can feel distant once you become a parent and what's really happening beneath the surface and how to start rebuilding connection in simple, impactful ways. Because let's be real here, we don't have all the time in the world anymore. And we've got to make sure that the time and energy that we put in counts, right? I'm all about being efficient. And so that's what you're going to get today. So if you have ever looked at your spouse and wondered, what in the hell happened to us? You love them, but it just doesn't feel the same anymore. Almost every couple who has kids has hit this point, okay? And like I said, it's not because love disappeared. It's because the relationship got deprioritized. And that's likely because you were not modeled how to have a thriving marriage while also being a parent, right? It's not that you've fallen out of love. It's that you stopped doing the things that make love grow. Love is something that needs to be kept alive and nurtured like a plant. It's not something where you like reach a certain level and then you can be hands off and let it go on autopilot and cruise for the rest of the time. No, that's when your love starts to fade is when you stop feeding into it, when you stop nurturing it, when you stop doing things to maintain that, which is what a lot of couples experience because their focus shifts to raising kids and surviving through the early years of parenthood. And it makes sense. And if you are wanting something different, then you've got to do something different, right? Even if you're like, well, this is what my parents did. I never saw them go on dates. Cool. Ask yourself this: do you want their marriage? Are you okay with your marriage turning out the same way? If the answer is no, and you want something better, then looking to their example is not for you. You've got to look elsewhere. You got to look to another example that emulates exactly what you want, right? A couple that is still so very much connected, that actually feels like a couple, and their present parents. Okay, so make sure you're taking after people who actually have what you want. And even then, you've got to personalize it to your life. Okay, but before we get to that point, let's talk about why parenthood changes everything. And I want to say this with like the caveat of I'm not meaning to make parenthood sound like it's a life sentence. There are certainly a lot of beautiful things that come out of being a parent, right? It is this indescribable feeling of fulfillment and joy and love. And it's also really challenging. It's also really expansive. It pushes you to your edges. Your kids, my kids, definitely have moments where they trigger me and teach me about myself and what I still need to work on. And as parents who also want a thriving marriage, we cannot just turn certain roles on and off, right? And so parenthood changes because it shifts how we do things. Our roles shift because we now have more things to do, right? We've got more responsibilities. We are most likely getting a lot less sleep or a lot less reliable sleep. We can often lose sight of our identity because we become so laser focused on doing right by our children, so much that we forget that we're also women. We're also wives. We are not just moms, right? And then not to mention time, right? Like we went from doing all these things for ourselves with the hobbies and hanging out with the friends and so on and so forth to thinking that a trip to Target or Costco alone is time for ourselves. And it is, but that is just a great example of how limited of a resource time becomes once we are parents. And with this shift, couples unconsciously move away from being lovers to being co-parenting roommates. So it's like, okay, you used to talk about things that had to do with your dreams, your goals, your fears, whatever. And now it's like, okay, who's going to pick up who? Who's going to pick up the groceries? What are we eating for dinner? What do we have to do this weekend? When are we going to clean the house? So on and so forth. The topics that we talk about more often change. And this shift isn't bad. It is misaligned, though, if we let it just fully switch over to only talking about logistics, only talking about things that have to do with the house, and only talking about things that have to do with the kids. Because then the dynamic with you and your spouse turn into more of a business transaction rather than one that is full of depth, intimacy, playfulness, gratitude. All of that is missing, right? It's all logistics. What's romantic about logistics? I mean, it's romantic in a sense that it's like, okay, if you're going to carry the load with me, that's awesome. But also, an executive assistant could help with that. And would you be romantic with them? Right? Like, I know I'm being a little bit silly by using that example, but I just want to drive home that point that these other elements are still needed in order for you to feel like a couple still, right? Because before kids, the times that you were connecting were often spontaneous, right? Because you had that luxury of being spontaneous. Whereas when you're parents, routines are your jam. That's what helps things move along, right? And kids thrive with predictability and stability, right? Like they thrive off of that. And with that routine, romance can almost be forgotten because it's like, well, where do we fit it in? There is no place to fit it in. So I guess it's not happening till some other time, right? When we remember, when we're not as tired, when the kids are easier, when fill in the blank, right? And it's like that day never comes, which is why we have to be intentional. If we're not intentional, then yeah, you can look back like people I've worked with where they're like, I don't know what happened. We have teenagers and it's like, how did we get here? We were so in love with each other. We had kids, and then it's like in the blink of an eye, we have teenagers, and now we wonder, are we still right for each other? Do we still love each other? Do we like each other even? And that's because it was forgotten. And that wake up call, that realization didn't turn on until that very moment, right? And that does sound grim, right? That's actually a true story, but good news. That couple is very much in love still, right? After working together for a few months, they were able to share and still share that they are smitten with each other. Not to mention that this couple has been together since, I want to say, middle school or high school. Okay, it has been a long time. So shout out to J&M, you know who you are. I just love talking about them because it was so inspiring getting to see how committed they were to doing the work and working towards that outcome, and then having them come back together stronger than ever. It was just like, I mean, how can you not love that, right? But anyway, let's get into what falling out of love really means. Because I do feel like people kind of like toss that out there because they don't feel like the butterflies and everything feels mundane, right? They're like, I don't know, life just feels like it's Groundhog's Day. Every day is the same shit, different day, right? So let's redefine what falling out of love means. Falling out of love means a loss of emotional intimacy, not love itself. Love is a verb, and verbs, not to make it an English lesson, but that's an action, right? And so it's something that needs action to stay alive. And many couples unintentionally stop doing the small things that made them feel like they were in love in the first place. Things like being curious with each other, right? Getting to know each other, really wanting to get to know each other's inner world, not just what everybody else sees, but like that special side that only a select few or maybe only you get to see. Playfulness, right? The jokes, the inside jokes, the flirting, the fun, the excitement, gratitude, right? Noticing what's working and sharing that, just sharing your full appreciation for who they are, how they show up for you, what they do, and letting them know just how lucky you feel to have them choose to be with you, to walk life with you. And also vulnerability, because you can't have intimacy without vulnerability, right? This means sharing your feelings instead of shutting down, sharing what's going on inside, what you're feeling, what you're wanting, what you're needing, instead of putting up the wall, the hard exterior, like, I don't need you, right? That's not helpful. And the cost of neglecting connection or letting it diminish is what leads you to feeling like we've fallen out of love, right? The symptoms, which are resentment, loneliness, misunderstandings, which lead to arguments a lot of times, right? It's the lack of emotional intimacy. It's the deterioration of emotional intimacy because there's distance, there's disconnect. And when love feels absent, that's when we start to focus on the symptoms, right? Like, oh, we're not having sex anymore. You're nagging a lot. There's a lot of fighting going on. Instead of getting down to the root cause, which is a lack of connection, keeping you two together, because that's the glue, right? Connection is what helps communication get better. Connection is what helps you feel excited to see each other, motivated to spend time with each other, in comfort in being around each other, even if it's just sitting around and not talking, right? Sitting in the car, quiet, and not feeling any tension, not feeling any awkwardness, not feeling like you have to fill that space with conversation or anything. You're just comfortable around each other. And for all my fellow plant parents out there, it's like wondering why your peace lily looks droopy when you haven't watered it in weeks. Which, by the way, if you're not a plant parent, peace lilies are the most communicative plant. They will literally show you that they are in need of water because they'll go from, very upright to all of a sudden they look like a very sad, droopy plant. Okay? And so if you're noticing these symptoms, use that as your sign of, oh, we got to do something about this before it gets worse. If you want to avoid resentment, stay connected. Okay. So let's talk about how to rekindle love without having to feel like you have to start all over again. Because let's be real, like there is no starting over. You guys are parents. You guys have history. You guys know each other to a certain degree. So how do we do this? How do we get to the point where we can get back to us, right? And that's where having intentional connection, routines, rituals, whatever you want to call it, that's where that comes in, okay? This can look like having daily check-ins, having micro connections, like being affectionate with each other, holding each other's hand in the car when you're driving, or holding your hand when you're going on a walk, hugging each other, kisses right before leaving each other, showing you're excited to see each other when you're reconnecting. Like, let's say you went to work or they went to work and one of you comes home. It's all about creating opportunities to connect, no matter how small, right? So it could be hugging, it could be kissing, it could be making a plan to spend time with each other, even if it's not doing anything crazy, right? It doesn't ever have to be grand. You don't have to say, okay, we have to go on a weekly date, although those are nice because it's also important to take breaks from being a parent so that you don't get burned out, and also have that dedicated time with your spouse. But I will say, I'm a marriage coach. I've been married for 11 years and we've got 3 kids, and we do not go on dates every week. And yet, I would say that we are very connected, okay? And we barely ever argue. Do we disagree? Absolutely. Do we have conflict? Absolutely. But we barely argue because we have learned to communicate healthily, effectively, and we're always creating micro moments of connection. And that's with us both working from home. I know a lot of couples like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. But we have our own space and we make sure that we respect each other's boundaries. Like, for example, when he's eating lunch, he likes to have his downtime because he's in meetings often. And so we almost pretend, even if we're eating lunch at the same time, that the other person is not there. Because I want to respect that he wants his own alone time. Even if he doesn't mind my physical presence, he wants to have time for himself to do whatever he's going to do, whether that's reading his Reddit articles or watching a show while eating. He doesn't want to feel pressure to be anyone other than just himself for himself. Another thing that can help with rekindling love is weekly time for adult-only connection, whether that's physical intimacy or time after the kids are in bed to do something together, whether it's watching a shared show or chatting, doing something fun, being a kid again, playing video games, playing a board game, like cooking dinner together. You could feed the kids earlier and then have your own little date once they go to bed and you eat a late dinner with your spouse. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can connect with each other and be creative about it. And also expressing appreciation and curiosity each day, right? Like, again, showing your gratitude for each other for small and big things, letting them know that, hey, I see you, I recognize the effort you're putting in, and I value that. And I love that. And it's having the impact that you want it to have. And getting curious, like, hey, how's this project going? Or what are you feeling like doing? Or just asking a random question to get to know them on a deeper level, whether it's about their childhood or their vision for their future, anything to get past like, oh, how was your day, right? And like I said, it's not about grand gestures. It's about your presence. It's about your effort. It's about your intention. So reconnect back to your why. Who were the two of you as a couple before life got busy? What did you love about that? Can you pick out those elements and come up with a way that works with your current lifestyle? Or even make a little bit of changes so that your schedule and your actions are truly reflecting your priorities. Because I know if I were to ask all of you, what's your priority? You would say something to the effect of, maybe in a different order, my family, right? My kids, my marriage, myself. I hope you're in that list. If not, we need to talk. But if we were to take a look at where your time is spent and what your focus is on, does it reflect that? I will say, for most of my couples, and sometimes me too, it does not reflect that. Because sometimes we get carried away with things that are pulling at our attention. What do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, sometimes the squeaky wheel isn't aligned with what is important to us as individuals. So if your marriage is important to you, as you say it is, do your actions back that up? Could I look at how you live life and agree with you? Is it obvious? And if it's not, use this as your invitation to pause and reflect on how you can align your everyday workings towards your priorities. Because at the end of the day, our relationships that we have, the one with ourselves, the one with our spouse, the one with our kids, those are going to be the ones that are the most important out of all the things that we do in life. When we look back, right? Let's say you're 80 years old and you look back on life. The things that people most regret are the things that relate to those relationships. Like, oh, I wish I pursued my hobbies more, or I wish I was more honest with myself, or I wish I spent more time with my kids while they were kids, or I wish I made my marriage more of a priority. Because I don't want you to become one of those couples where you hit fast forward 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and you're like, damn, we feel like strangers. I don't want you to feel that way. That's not a great place to be in. To feel regret and confusion for how did we get here, and regret for like, how did we let this happen? All those years lost that we could have felt really in love and good and enjoyed our marriage together. Okay. So remember your why and realign to that. And if you're listening to this episode and you're like, damn, I feel really called out right now and I want to make a change, and you're wondering, oh, is it time to get support? I'll give you this. If you can't remember the last time you felt excited to see your spouse and your conversations feel purely logistical and you love each other, but you feel more like roommates, and maybe you're even having trouble communicating and you don't feel like partners much, it's probably time to schedule a clarity call with me and talk about how marriage coaching can help you. In addition to that, I want you to check out my Marriage 360 review. This is going to really help you figure out where connection fell off and what areas your marriage needs your attention. Like I said, you didn't fall out of love. It just faded because of a lack of prioritization, because of a lack of intention and action. Okay? Your relationship needs tending to. And while you may not be able to go back and change the past, you can start right now. You can start changing how you interact with your spouse. You can start changing how intentional you are with them. and change the future. You are welcome to pivot whenever you want. If you don't like the path you're going down, make a different path. Now, go check out the Marriage 360 review. The link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to check out what coaching can do for you, book a clarity call with me. I would love to get to know you and share with you how I can support you in getting your marriage back on track. And dare I say, even better than it was before. Okay, really helping you build that strong foundation, helping you get to the point where you feel like an us again and you enjoy each other again. Because that's what it's really about, right? You didn't get married to feel like, let's enjoy this until we have kids. Like, that's terrible, right? You got married because you wanted to enjoy it for the rest of your life together. So let's do that. Let's help you get there. All right, that's all I have for you today. If you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. Better yet, share this in your Instagram story and tag me so I can give you a shout out. And if you love this show, I'm so glad to hear that. Please leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Reading them makes my day every time. And that's what truly helps the show grow so that more people like you can find the show and get the support that they need. And I will catch you back here on the next episode. Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.